And welcome to the Aftershock postgame show. My name is Alex Morgan. I'm your host tonight here with Robert Jonas. We'll be joined by Jamon Moore live from Seattle after San Jose's 1-0 victory, road victory over the Seattle Sounders. And we have a special celebration tonight. Robert, I think we can bring out the balloons and the signs we got. It is the 100th episode of the Aftershock post-game show. We're so grateful for everyone for joining us on this journey. We had to bring out all the stops to celebrate tonight. And we'll have some special announcements later in the show. I know that Jamon has been talking to sources in the club in Seattle, might have some information to share about things going on behind the scenes. I know we have plans for the future. So, Robert, I want to thank you for joining us tonight for this celebration, and want to thank the Earthquakes for celebrating with us. And finally, for the first time since July 2022, getting a win on the road.
It was impressive, absolutely impressive, because, you know, this game had every hallmark of being a Seattle comeback. I mean, the way they were crushing the goal, testing Daniel at every play. And to see the Quakes sort of put that energy together and sort of turn the tables on the narrative. I mean, we had to listen to Max Bredos all night talk about the Quakes giving up goals in stoppage time. He couldn't wait to rip on the Quakes for doing it again. And they wouldn't capitulate. And the Quakes get out of Seattle with another impressive road victory against the Sounders. I think we've seen this before in the history of the club, a big victory up in the Pacific Northwest. And that first road victory, that's so huge in this campaign.
Absolutely. And I'm just hearing from the Earthquakes press team. We will be speaking to Luchi Gonzalez and Jeremy Ebobisse tonight. They will be joining us shortly. So we'll get to ask them about that game. And this was a really touch and go game in the end, Robert. We were looking at the XG stats right before we went live. Seattle Sounders had almost 3 XG in that game with how much they were attacking in that second half. By the time the Earthquakes scored in the first half, they had more XG. They had about 1 XG in the first half. But then you look at that, after they score, they did not have any XG for the remaining 45 minutes of soccer. And Seattle had an expected goals of almost 2. And so that pattern is still concerning. I think a lot of us in the Quakes Epicenter patron chat were bracing for another, late goal that the Earthquakes would concede. We're bracing for a stoppage time equalizer or something of that sort. What was the difference tonight, Robert?
Well, I mean, I'm going to kind of invoke 2 ideas. First, the law of averages. The Quakes definitely, look to protect the lead when they can. And as Luchi would tell us, and I'm sure I'll be asking him about it again tonight, it's not easy to protect the lead, especially when an opponent is motivated, a team at the top of the table, a team that's at home. These are all factors that make protecting that 1-0 lead really precarious. But it mattered. It made the difference tonight that they really showed a lot of resolve. And I think a key tactical difference, and I know, Alex, you're going to talk about this too, is we saw the MLS debut of Daniel Muni. They brought in a third center back, something that Luchi's done all season to try to really shore up the defense in the waning moments of games. And it's worked many, many times, especially at PayPal Park. He was reluctant to do that against Dallas. We didn't see Daniel when he was available off the bench. Instead, the Quakes kept with 2 center backs, and they ended up giving up the goal. This time with a third center back patrolling inside there, and maybe you could say a little bit of luck in Raul Diaz just failing at every attempt that he had, the Quakes walk away the winners.
And I want to bring in live from Seattle, Lumen Field, Jamon Moore joining us. Jamon, how's it going? Congratulations on joining us for our 100th show. We were just talking about that second half when the San Jose were weathering shot after shot after shot. What did you see? Why were the Quakes able to hold on? Why was this game different than last weekend against Dallas and the weekend before against LAFC? And you're on mute, Jamon. I think you got to unmute this one.
All right. Well, first off, thanks everyone for showing up to Aftershock 100. Very exciting to be getting this far as an episode and to have all of your support to be able to do it and be able to celebrate it with the first away win of the season. So for me, the center backs situation was kind of interesting tonight, but I really like Miguel Trauco really liked Daniel Muni. A strong opening performance for him, and being asked to play out of his natural position, as an outside back, maybe even as a wing back at times. But it's hard to tell if there's a wing back when you're not putting together much of an attack there. And also, Daniel made the case for himself tonight in the strongest way possible. I think, honestly, it's a toss-up between, how Muni was in the right position to be able to block some shots, clear some balls out of the box. Super impressed with him. I was impressed with him in preseason. We got the chance to see him at Coachella. And I thought it was exciting.
Hey, Luchi, congratulations on the win. It's been a long time since the Quakes have had a road win, so congratulations. I want to talk a little bit about Daniel's performance. What did you think about how he played? And going back home to San Jose, do you feel like there's still a debate for the #1 goalkeeper thing?
What do you mean going back home, though, Fabian? We're away at Colorado next game.
Oh, my apologies. Yeah, going on the next road trip. Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you, Fabian. And look, I know you're saying it's been a long time, and it's important that we just take things one moment at a time, stay present. We've had these opportunities in stoppage time, and we've earned those opportunities to get a win or a draw. And so we're putting ourselves in good places, and then some of these stoppage times were really long, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, which aren't typical. So it's just about kind of just believing in ourselves. The guys continue to train with intensity and focus and be excited with the next moment. We address things that we want to improve if we're in this opportunity, actually when we're on this opportunity, which we're going to be many times, to get better. And they showed it. They showed it tonight, and I'm really proud of them. And regarding Daniel, yeah, obviously a great performance. He's worked hard to stay healthy, get healthy, and stay healthy. And he's been great in the competition with JT, and we have a great goalkeeping group. And that's going to help us in the long season because there's injuries, there's ups and downs, but Daniel was really important for us tonight, and we're really proud of him. Great performance.
Next up, Robert Jonas.
Thank you.
Thank you. Congrats again on that first road victory. This game really played out almost as a carbon copy of Saturday's game against Dallas. Both teams struggling to find the nets. San Jose taking the lead and really hanging on. Not a single amount of XG after the goal to put you guys 1-0. The defensive effort, though, there was one big difference for me when I'm watching that game, and that was that you brought in Daniel Muni. You brought in essentially a third center back when you didn't do that against Dallas when maybe you had the opportunity to do so, and that seemed to make a big difference. How did you see that, and specifically with Daniel on the field, how did you see his MLS debut for you?
Yeah, look, it's something that we have to read the game. So bringing in another center back, which we brought in him he's a center back, but we brought him as a fullback. He came in at right back, and then he ended up being a wing back. We wanted him to stay connected to Chu and match the speed. Daniel was a fast player, and I thought he did a pretty good job neutralizing. Chu did a few combos there to get in behind, but at least Daniel was there trying to hunt him down and make it difficult. Look, and honestly, the like I said, the game in LAFC, we went 3 center backs to try to address denying wide service and having the extra player in the box to defend, and we got unlucky there with the PK. But in the last game, we didn't really see 2 forwards. I know they put a second forward in with Jimenez and Fededa, Jesus Fededa, but Fededa plays in the midfield in the build-up, and he does attack the box in certain times, obviously, but we felt like we didn't need that extra center back. And the goal we conceded with Nkosi, we had a 3 versus 2 defensively, so we weren't outnumbered. But it was a flick that ended up in the back of the net. So something we got to close down defensively, right? And we talked about that. We looked at the video, and I thought we did a much better job. And look, Seattle had their chances, and like you said, like we saw, Daniel stepped it up for us. But that's part of the game, and we need that. We need guys to step up defensively and make plays in key moments. And I thought we did that. And we made some good clears. We got the ball out of the box when we needed to, And I still feel we can do better. We got the win, we got the result, but we can still even do better. And we want to keep improving.
Thank you.
And in this regard, they've had two center forwards, Montero and Rui Diaz, and we felt we didn't need the three center backs. But Miguel Trauco was the third center back, not Daniel Muni. Tommy was a wing back on the left.
Thank you, Luchi. Next up, let's go to a question from Alex Morgan.
Unmuted.
Hi, Luchi. Thanks for joining us tonight. Congrats on the win. I want to ask more about that second half. And I'm curious, how much that defensive posture is intentional. That shift after the first goal, that it's a, smash and grab, you're trying to protect the lead. And how much of it, concerns you, the fact that the team isn't able to push forward into the, Seattle's half as much and isn't able to connect passes in the way that they, looked like they were doing in the first half.
Muted.
Well, we did in the second half. It was early in the second half, and then we score, and they're committing a lot of numbers. They're down 1-0. They're home, and they're going to commit numbers, and they're going to be more aggressive. So it's not a tactic. We talked about not just getting into this automatic low block and concede space and get bombed with crosses. This is not the intention. We want to push them out and get in our mid block, get pressure on the ball. I mean, you saw us get pressure on the ball a few times, but they were committing numbers. They were getting their second balls, and they were creating danger. So we naturally ended up lower than we would like. But it's all a learning lesson. At the end of the day, yeah, we want to. There's a few times we try to connect in some short passing combos when we want it low, and then the space was actually in behind for a ball in behind, and where we had isolation 1-on-1s, 2-on-2s. So we got to keep improving that. I think we can definitely do better in that way. But look, we found a way to get the result. We're going to take it. We'll grab it. We'll learn, and I'm excited because we got the result in a difficult place to play against the first place team in the conference, and we can still do better. So that's something we're going to keep working on.
Next question, Marco Ikolovich. Marco, can you hear us? All right, let's switch over to the Spanish portion and take this call for this question from Max Cordaro. Profe, esta pregunta viene de Max Cordaro de Telemundo. Le pregunta, Luchi, por favor, díganos de sus reacciones del partido de hoy, qué significa conseguir la victoria en el camino y cómo se viene el partido de Colorado de visitante otra vez el sábado.
Gracias. No, estaba diciendo que para nosotros aprendimos mucho en esos momentos, ¿no? Al final del partido, donde tuvimos casi 3 puntos, un empate y no se dio, ¿no? Pero como equipo, los últimos días hablamos en detalle juntos como equipo, qué son las cosas que podemos mejorar, cómo lo podemos mejorar, cuáles son los roles, cuáles son los momentos, cuál es el objetivo. Y creo que nosotros hicimos una buena respuesta, ¿no? Y enseñamos que sí podemos ganar de ida o ganar en momentos cuando estamos al final del partido y el otro equipo nos viene encima. Pero muy orgullosos de los chicos en tener un buen proceso y aplicarlo, ¿no? Hoy día, en esta noche, en un estadio, un equipo muy difícil para jugar y el equipo número 1 en la conferencia. Pero todavía podemos mejorar, todavía queremos mejorar y saber que podemos seguir creciendo. Y contra Colorado va a ser un partido muy difícil. Perdieron ahora contra Columbus y ahora ellos están en casa. Tenemos que ir allá y estar muy listos. Un equipo que quiere responder. Nosotros mismos sabemos que todavía podemos mejorar y jugar mucho mejor y tenemos hambre para seguir ese proceso y mantener eso. Pero tenemos que recuperar rápido. Es una semana corta y poner nuestra mejor cara que podemos en Colorado ahora.
Yes, profe. And let's take one more question and go back to English from Jamon Moore. Go ahead, Jamon.
Hey, Luchi. Sorry for joining late. I'm here at the stadium. Congrats on the win tonight. A lot of firsts for you and for the season. First away win, first appearance for Daniel Muni, who looked great tonight. First clean sheet for Daniel. I want to talk a little about the corner goal. Your first corner goal of the season. You guys have generated a lot of XG from corners, but hadn't put one away until tonight. How gratifying was it for you to finally, get another monkey off the back and get a goal off of a corner kick this year, since you've been dangerous but just hadn't gotten them put away so far? Thanks.
Yeah, look, for us, set pieces include like multiple phases, like the first contact, second phase, third phase, like if the ball is recycled. So those, we constitute that as set piece, right? And if it's a corner, like Miguel's goal against LAFC, we would call that a second phase corner goal, because it came from an intention, and then we have players in positions to get second balls and keep it in play and score. So I don't agree. I don't think it's our first corner, but I understand what you mean in terms of like the initial contact and second contact scoring. So, we did score the last game with Benji, but that was a wide free kick, right? So I think we've been dangerous. I think the guys have shown a good mentality to try to get on the end of these, and we have the tools that can be effective. And I'm really happy to see us get a planned corner like we did tonight in a really important game, and Jabo get on the score sheet, get on that second post after a good flick by Rodri. So we have that potential, and we would like to continue to do it better.
All right. Thank you, Luchi, and thank you, everyone, for your questions. Give us a few minutes, and we'll have Jeremy Ebobisse here.
Thanks, guys. Good night.
There you have it. Luchi Gonzalez in the post-match press conference will be joined by Jeremy Ebobisse again shortly. Robert, I have the sense that Luchi is getting a little more feisty in these post-match, a little more touchy in these post-match pressers as of late.
Well, I think two things. Number one, I think he's getting sick of the narrative that the Quakes can't hold a lead, and maybe he's feeling finally a little bit happy about it. But number two, I think, and again, rightfully so, he's being very careful with the questions. I was a little bit mistaken in saying directly Daniel Muni was playing center back, and he was willing to kind of correct me and sort of explain the situation. And I appreciate that too, because, he's the coach and he's got some ideas behind it. And, it's going to prompt me to think about the way I'm asking my questions. If he's going to, have that little bit of energy, then I think it's up to me to kind of bring some of that energy back. I'm ready.
Well, if he's going to push back on the questions, then it's only fair we push back on his comments in the show. And I'm not going to lie. I think that his answer to my question didn't resonate with what I saw in the field. He said that he thought in the second half that they were able to get forward and able to make passes, up the field, and able to put pressure on Seattle after they scored. And I just didn't see that. It felt like what he said was not their plan, sort of instantly dropping into a low block is exactly what happened. He said that was very much not their plan, to instantly drop into a low block and defend, chaotically for the, next 30, 40 minutes. I think that's what happened. I don't know if there's any other way to interpret what happened tonight. Jamin, am I wrong? Can you?
I disagree entirely. So sitting up here, being able to see how it played out, both teams have agency, guys. It's not just one team playing and they get to dictate the entire thing. That was completely the Sounders finally waking up. The Quakes woke them up. They just put tons of pressure on, give the Quakes no avenues to play out. When they kick long, they just get it back and come back down the other way. Give the Sounders a lot of credit. I think that push from about minute 65 to about minute 85, I would say, was mainly the Sounders, and the Quakes just reacting to what the Sounders were dishing. They made the right substitutions. A lot of energy with Rui Diaz's return tonight. I don't think people understand, but he has not been playing at all. Right. And there was a lot of energy around his return tonight. You could feel it. People were just super excited about Rui Diaz being back on the field, and he had some chances. And they just kept pushing and pushing with those fresh legs. I think that what happened is the Quakes started to actually go into the mode you're describing, but not until the 85th minute. And it was very clear when that happened when you're watching it from up high. So I had the advantage of being here live, and I could see a little bit more, and I completely get that. But you have to understand how agency works, that both teams have it, both teams can execute, and the Sounders took, control of the situation, and the Quakes were in reaction mode. And fortunately, Seattle kind of bailed them out with some mistakes, but also give Daniel credit for the saves and give Muni some credit, and Trauco some credit for some good defensive work as well.
Jamin, what you didn't know is that I was actually in a helicopter right above the field for the whole 90 minutes. So I had
Well, it wouldn't be Aftershock 100 if we didn't
tactical
disagree
camera.
for the fans,
That's right.
Alex. So you and I are going to disagree a bit because I think that's what the fans want on Aftershock
Jamin,
100. We give the fans what they want.
This isn't fair if you pull the
Luchi's
live in
feisty
the
tonight.
stadium
We're all
card.
a little feisty tonight.
This isn't a fair fight if you say that you have the better view live in the stadium. What concerns me, Jamin,
You know, I'll tell you what. I'm going to bring in an impartial third party to this conversation and let him give his opinion. Here at the stadium with me right now is Ted Ramey. Ted, come on over. Ted, we want to hear from you. I'm going to hold the microphone here and try to
Now
pick
we're
up both of us.
outnumbered.
You take that chair. You know, no. Ted's impartial.
Yeah, the emphasis on impartiality.
He is a broadcast journalist. So give him
Not a homer at all.
Right, not a homer at all. So Ted, more on the Quakes, more on the Sounders. Like after that goal, how did you see the game play out?
I mean,
Oh, Jamin, we lost your audio here. I wonder if this means I can get a word in to start to rebut before they before
Hey, I do
Ted
feel that we
dogpiles.
should have a little here. So
Yeah, no, they're giving us a head start. Well, look, I just think that because there's a
Hear me now?
pattern where
Yeah,
we've seen
okay.
this in the last
Okay.
3 games. Ted, I want to set
Yeah.
this up with a little bit of unbiased context here.
unbiased.
There's a pattern in the last 3 games of the Quakes having a lead and then immediately collapsing into a low, defensive block, an instant block. And we heard in the post-match press conference, Luchi Gonzalez say that that's not something that they're intending to do. So the question as I see it is that something that they're forfeiting? Is it a mental block that they have? Is that on them or was that Seattle tonight?
I think that's Seattle in this instance because Seattle, the mentality they have, the way that they are going to respond, especially in this building, which is one of the more difficult places to play in Major League Soccer. I think that the minute the Quakes scored, you felt like they were going to bring it on. And that's exactly what happened. And I felt that when we got to about the 60-minute when they started making their substitution, the Quakes started to look pretty tired. And
I thought Rui Diaz entry brought a ton of energy to the stadium.
Yeah, Rui Diaz did bring a lot of energy to the stadium. And, he had some chances that I think that if he's in form, he might be able to finish those. But here's the thing. I mean, you got to play the games that are on the schedule. The Earthquakes don't have their strongest roster out there. Both these teams are midweek. You can make an argument that Seattle was the better team tonight, and they created a good amount of opportunities, but also Daniel came up huge time and time again, his biggest performance of the year. He was my man of the match. The Earthquakes did the things that they didn't do in some of these other games. They absorbed things better than they did against LAFC. The Atlanta game is relatively fluky, but they still gave up those goals. They didn't do that tonight. So that, they didn't concede like they did in Austin. The New York game is such a aberration that it's hard for me to reference that in good faith. But, the Earthquakes, they absorbed what was brought to them. They handled the threats. And, sometimes that's what you have to do. This was not the best Earthquakes games we've seen this year. I think that was probably LAFC, but they still did enough. And that's how you win on the road in Major League Soccer. You are asked questions of yourself and you come up with the moments. And I know that's a long meandering answer to your initial question, but it's hard for me to look at all of that. And it all played into it. I thought that was, there were many factors that played in, especially when it got to stoppage time. I think there was a little clenching at first because it was like, okay, this is where the problem is, but they handled it this time.
A legend also commenting here.
Monty.
Rossetti, Monty, man, we miss you, guy.
Monty's the man.
Thanks for checking in. Appreciate it tonight.
We have,
but yes, having Ted come on, hijack the show. That's what Ben says. You're hijacking the show.
Well,
So,
and now we have, I want to shout out that we have 100 people joining us live here for our 100th edition of the Aftershock. So I want to thank everybody for tuning into the show. We'll be speaking to Jeremy Ebobisse soon in the press conference here, but I want to give Robert.
I have to leave after Jeremy Ebobisse, so there is one bit of news I want to try to give to people.
Hit us with it
before we get Ebobisse on, and I have to leave because I have 3 people waiting in the car. But I'm also hoping to talk to Daniel Muni one-on-one very quickly before the bus leaves, and that is a bit of news. Jonathan Mensah will be playing in Colorado. Did not make the trip with the team, was not available tonight, not even here, but did find out from a Quakes source who was willing to tell me that he will be back for Colorado, that his time.
Oh, we lost you again, Jamon. But for context, Jonathan Mensah has been out these last 2 games because he violated team rules, and Luchi took the decision to keep him on the bench, or keep him off the roster, keep him at home for these last 2 games.
Not even at practices.
Not even at practices. We did not know that previously.
That's the information I got tonight. Not even at practices. It was a decision. It was a team rule that he broke. He has made amends for it, apologizing. There are other actions being taken, not just what we see on the pitch and such. So, it's a team thing. There, I got no information as to what it was regarding. I'm not holding anything back. There's nothing for me to share about that. But I think the news that everyone can be very happy with is that he is going to be back for Colorado. So.
Did Luchi address any of this in the post game?
I didn't ask the question because I already knew the answer.
Okay.
So if someone else asked it, then that would have been fine. But I did not ask the question.
I'm just curious. Was there anything particularly revealing that Luchi said? Because I didn't hear it. I was doing post game stuff. So I'm asking Alex, was there something, or you, RJ, did you take away anything specific from what Luchi said that was maybe enlightening or maybe a little bit providing clarity to what you saw tonight?
About the Jonathan Mensah situation, we did not talk about that tonight on the post-game press conference.
In the game in and of itself.
We asked him last week, and he was only willing to reveal that there was a team rule that was violated. But yeah, we have to go to Jeremy Ebobisse now, but we can circle back on that afterwards.
Maybe corners in different phases and such, but the closest thing you've had to a direct corner kick goal this season after just a lot of attempts. How satisfying was it to you to be able to find a goal in that situation? And then talk about the Seattle's reaction after the goal as well, and what you guys had to do to dig deep tonight to be able to get a victory. Thanks.
Yeah, it was a good feeling to see all the work that we put in on the training ground and set pieces come to fruition. I think we've come close a few times, got a free kick goal last game, today a corner kick goal, and we've had some good looks as well. So today we got a good clean header and guys ended up in their spots and I was able to convert. So something to build off of. And on the road, it's going to be difficult. You alluded to Seattle's reaction. It was one of, a winning team, a championship team, and they came at us with a lot, but we held it down tonight. I know that they had some chances and some opportunities to score, but it's the game we play. We've had games where we've had good chances that we weren't able to convert to get the game out of reach. And today we made it hard enough for them to not score more goals than us. And we'll take some pride in that and then try to replicate something on Saturday against Colorado.
Next question, Robert Jonas.
Thank you. Congrats. You've obviously in your career had many opportunities to face the Sounders, and I'm sure any opportunity to score 3 points has got to feel pretty good and to get a goal to boot. This game almost played out as a carbon copy to the game against Dallas just a few days ago, with, of course, the major difference being the final score and being able to finish this out. Based on what's happened from that game to tonight, the emotions in that post game, the talks with the coaching staff about what to adjust, what to be ready for in Seattle. What were you most impressed with, and what does it say to you and to your teammates about where this team is and where this team can go, being able to bounce back from that disappointing game against Dallas to achieve what is this first road victory of the season? Thanks, Jeremy.
Yeah, I think after we finished the game against Dallas, there were a lot of opportunities to discuss ways to move forward, whether it was from an emotional standpoint, tactical standpoint, game management standpoint. And we saw some of that tonight. I mean, we were able to dig deep. We were able to manage certain moments with a deftness that gave us the life to keep repelling their attacks. Ultimately, we are still a work in progress. I don't think we're fully satisfied with how we attacked and were able to turn them and put them under pressure. I think once we scored and once they started piling the pressure on, We went through a difficult phase, maybe giving the ball away a little bit too much, myself included. So that we can win on the road against a team that was number one in our conference and maybe not be playing at our best, but we can fight our way out of the situation. That gives me a lot of encouragement. And again, Saturday is an opportunity to back that up with hopefully another meaningful result and something that can set us up for a good month of June.
Let's take 2 more questions. First, going to Alex Morgan, and then we'll finish with Bobby Rankle.
Unmuted.
Hi, Jeremy. Thanks for joining us tonight. Congrats on the goal and on the victory. I'm curious about the second half and how your thought progress changes in the second half. When you guys are deciding, okay, now's the time to go in a deep low block and park the bus and defend the league, and for how long you're still trying to push up the field and keep the game more even. When is that moment in games like these where you're deciding, okay, now is time to park the bus?
Muted.
To be honest, we're not really looking to park the bus. I think that's something that happens in game based on what the other team is throwing at us, the way that they're pushing their numbers forward and counter pressing in a way that we're not able to get out of our defensive third, middle third. That creates a cycle that is difficult to break. I think from minute 60 to 75, we were struggling. Their counter pressure led to a lot of turnovers in our half. And ultimately, we felt that we needed to weather the storm as best as possible, and that's what we did. We would like to stay at least in the mid block as much as possible, really. If it's going to be the last couple of minutes and you really need to see something out, they're throwing on a lot of attacking subs, throwing their center back forward like Dallas was. I mean, that might bring a different reaction from us, but our goal is to move from that low block when it happens into a middle block, and that starts with being better on the ball than we were tonight.
And one final question from Bobby Rankle.
Hey, Jeremy, congratulations on the goal, and thanks for talking to us tonight. I want to talk a little bit about getting on the score sheet tonight. How important was that for you to get on the score sheet again? And then on the free kick goal, or on the free kick, excuse me, who went ahead and made the decision to take the shot? I know I saw Espinoza open, and you went for the goal. What was your mindset in that moment? Thank you.
Yeah, I think I'll go with a free kick. We were just kind of trying to see where the wall would align itself, and from there, really pick the right shooter. There are always a lot of conversations that go on, but we support each other in who makes the final decision. I think maybe if I had the chance to take it back, I would have given it to Miro, because the wall had started in one side that I preferred and then kind of shifted over the other, and maybe we weren't able to communicate as well as I would have liked in that moment. But it's important, kind of shifting to the goal. It is important to score as a striker. It's something that gives you belief in what the team is doing, what you're doing, your movements, your desire to get in the box. And of late, I don't think we've been scoring the amount of goals that we want. This team is electric going forward, and we need to continue to work on that, because there's a lot more for us to give from Benji, me, Christian, Cade, Buddha, etc. You name it. We're hungry for goals, and I think once we're able to score multi-goal games with a degree of frequency, it's gonna prevent us from having to absorb so much pressure late on in games. So it's something I take on my chest and look forward to finding the optimal future.
This concludes the press conference. Thank you, everyone.
And there you have it, Jeremy Ebobisse joining us in the post-match press conference. He was the one who got the all-important goal. He was at the far post. Rodriguez flicked on a header. He was able to put away another one this season, their first one from a set piece in a while. Robert, was there anything particularly that you took away from that press conference?
Yeah, I wanted to make sure I asked Jeremy about the what's happened from then to now, and especially with Saturday's game being so similar in the disappointment. And I was really glad to hear him talk about learning from those experiences. Oftentimes players will trot out the cliche that they turn the page and they don't think about the past and they're just going to look ahead to the next game on the calendar. But I think that's part of what Luchi's culture is. He talks about creating accountability, which is why I think we're talking about why Jonah Mensah is not playing this last week. He wants players to be learning, developing, and understanding that there is more to come, and and they should expect more of themselves in that process. So hearing Jeremy be thoughtful about that experience between the two games is a good sign that Luchi's project is moving forward as planned, and maybe there's going to be more of these types of exciting games to look forward to.
And Jamon and Ted, I want to ask you about the one big question that was asked about the way that the Earthquakes performed there in the second half. And I think that, at least for me, it felt like the timeline that Jeremy Ebobisse gave was a little more realistic than the timeline that Luchi Gonzalez gave. Jeremy admitted that between the 60th minute and the 75th minute there, the Earthquakes were not trying to play in a low block, but they just couldn't get out of their defensive third. And then, in the last 10 minutes is when they're really, really dropping deeper. What did you take away from that comment?
Yeah, I agreed with Jeremy's comments. I think he's got a little bit more grasp being on the pitch as to what he was feeling from that push. And I actually think it lasted till about the 85th. I could feel the switch around the 85th minute, like I mentioned earlier. So, it's sometimes you're going to face that when you're facing a team like LAFC, a team like Seattle, maybe even on the right night, St. Louis, like you're going to feel a lot of pressure in those situations. And I think the Quakes are learning a bit more about how to adapt to the pressure, depending upon how it's coming at them. The other night, you could say capitulating too easy. FC Dallas wasn't applying a lot of pressure. In fact, there was not enough pressure to the ball for the ball that went over, Daniel's head. And I don't think Daniel's fault. And also, he maybe potentially tweaked his knee there again, his right knee. But it's not a situation you should allow. There should be more pressure. And tonight, call it what you will, a low block or, what the Sounders are throwing at them. But I felt like the Quakes had mostly the right pressure in the right situations. A couple cross-ups, I think, with Daniel and communication with the back line. A couple times I would have liked to see him come out to the ball. Again, he's getting games back in now, and he's getting reps back in now. And I think some of that's going to come. But Ted, before we sign off here from our side, your quick read on that.
Yeah, I mean, that's to me, that's the pushback that's going to happen with a team like the Sounders. Like they are going to come at you as soon as if you go up on them in their house, they're going to come at you with everything. And that's what we saw. And again, that's on the Earthquakes to try and absorb it and deal with it and just kind of get the clearance. And, to borrow from hockey, it turns into one long penalty kill, essentially. You're just trying to clear it out, give yourself a little bit of room, but they're going to come at you again and again and again. And that's what the Sounders did. So it's relatively expected. It's not the prettiest thing, but I mean, over 90 plus minutes of soccer, you see these ebbs and flows and these pushes and pulls, and the teams that can respond in kind, those are the teams that eventually do well and better as the season goes on. And I know that stoppage time issues have been frustrating for the Earthquakes, and not being able to hold on to leads on the road have been frustrating, but we saw a growth point tonight, hopefully, that they can build off of, because you don't want to see the complete version of the team now. And that's usually not the team that ends up being better later in the year. The Earthquakes are still a team that's growing, getting better, learning. We're watching that process, I hope, in real time, and that this will be something we point to if they continue to have success and hold on to this, positive spot in the table right now, because it's not terrible to have the rest of the league maybe sleeping on the Earthquakes a little bit, not knowing the way that they drop some of those points. They might say, yeah, they're in the middle of the pack there in terms of the teams that are in the playoffs, but they've hung around with everybody except for St. Louis, which was a game where Montero was on red. And then we saw Grayzo go down, and then the game totally changed. So the other teams at the top of the West, Dallas, LAFC, Seattle, have been pretty good, pretty even.
My issue with the Quakes is the way that they've played the bottom of the table. I want to see a little bit more. Colorado is going to be a good test to kind of see, if they're taking a step forward or not, playing up in that, thin air. Didn't get a chance to talk to Luchi about, if they do any special training around that, but they're flying out tomorrow morning from Seattle and going straight there. So that'll hopefully give the boys some time to acclimate to the altitude there.
Jamon,
we do need to sign off here, Alex.
In order to make it a fair
quick
fight,
one.
Can I give you one quick one in order to make it a fair fight?
Very quick. I do need to run.
My one quick one is that I'm not sure that the Quakes really did learn that much tonight, because it didn't feel like they were defending smartly. It felt like they were defending very instinctively, and it didn't feel like, even though they had so many men behind the ball, that they were actually getting in front of the crosses, blocking the crosses. They were actually shutting down Seattle in the places they needed to be shutting them down. It felt like tonight nothing really changed from the Dallas game, from the LAFC game, in that they just got lucky tonight. That
I think the
Seattle
center
didn't
backs
put it away.
I think the center back struggled a bit, but remember, Jonathan Mensah is coming back against Colorado, so maybe, we'll see. I think getting Daniel Muni some time tonight is very valuable, and getting him some confidence out on the pitch, getting Daniel some confidence that he can play in a tough game like this, an environment like this in front of 30,000 fans tonight. I think that's a point too. So I agree with you, Alex. I'm the one who looks at 3xG and go, how did that ball not go in the back of the net? Yeah. I completely get it. But at the same time, I do think there are some positives to take. And I think getting back Jonathan Mensah, who's the rock back there, is going to be big for the team. We'll see if he starts, because he hasn't been practicing, but getting him back, I think, will be big. We do need to run. I appreciate both of you so much. I appreciate all the Aftershock hosts who have gotten us to 100.
You didn't get to see the balloons. We have the balloons set up here for the Aftershock 100 that 10. We were showing off earlier.
10.
Well, Robert had the other 0 here.
Well, Robert's drawing zeros on the scratch pad. I love it. 100. Hey guys, give the fans a great show. Thank you so much for everything tonight to all the fans. Thank you for getting us to 100. We wouldn't be here without you. And thanks for 100 people coming on the live show tonight. I appreciate that as well. So we got to run. But give them heck, guys. Thank you so much.
See you guys.
Good to see you guys.
See you, gents. We want to thank Jamon Moore and Ted Ramey, who is the Earthquake radio broadcaster, for joining us tonight live from Lumen Field in Seattle. And now that they're gone, we're going to need you guys to step up in the comments and push back on this narrative that me and Robert are spinning. Robert, what do you make of it? I'm willing to grant that, they were maybe making strides tonight with the move to 5 at the back. Right. If you have 5 at the back, that is a tactical choice they're making that, is progress. And if you get Jonathan Mensah back in, then maybe you'll see the fruits of that. But it still didn't feel to me like, you really saw much defensive improvement tonight, as much as luck.
I don't know. So for me, I think the learning opportunity, as opposed to it was a growth event. If to me, there's a difference there. Is very much explained in how Luchi answered my question. That was, again, a little bit erroneous in that I mentioned Muni coming in as a center back, and he corrected me to explain how things were.
Be a goldfish, Robert. Be a goldfish. But we knew what you meant on the show. All
totally
of the
totally
knew what you meant.
So kind of listening back to that while the conference was going on there, and the nuances in the way he was addressing, not just the if-then of the decision making. I've seen way too often Quakes coaches take the approach of like, all right, go in there and defend. I mean, literally, that seems to be the instructions that I've seen coaches in the past give. To the number of slight differences Luchi was identifying from this game to previous games, and even within the game, the number of forwards, where they're attacking from, the minutes they're playing at, and the ability to actually take those 5 defenders and not necessarily put them in their natural positions and still get the results from it, I think is the learning opportunity. You've now learned that Daniel Muni is a guy that maybe you can count on as another defender to come in, and maybe, just maybe, you get Mensah back. Beeson still is your new, your first center back off the bench. And now maybe Muni's your next defender off the bench. Maybe Tommy Thompson doesn't have to be that guy, or whoever else is, sitting on the bench waiting to come in. That's a pretty valuable lesson that I think Luchi's going to be able to take away from this game, and Muni too, to feel the confidence that, okay, yeah, maybe I can hang with this. Maybe I can make this happen. So Luchi is very much going to give us detailed answers, and I absolutely appreciate it for him. I learn a lot from the way we talk, not just in these press conferences, but when I'm able to go out to training, it's the same way. And that, listening back and recognizing the way he kind of addressed the defensive setup, I'm encouraged by that. It's not cookie cutter. It's not all if then, and I think that's something that will show how this Quakes team is going to continue to adapt, hopefully get some signings because they're going to be threadbare even more if we go forward, and be able to continue their position in the top half of the Western Conference.
Yeah, and what really interested me about the Daniel Muni substitute, Robert, we obviously seen Daniel Muni get his first minutes in Major League Soccer, so want to congratulate him on those minutes. What was interesting was that he didn't play at center back, which is where he played in college, which is where he naturally plays. He didn't play at center back. Instead, he played on the right wing back, and the Quakes shifted to that 5 at the back. And that was interesting. It suggests to me maybe they don't have a ton of confidence in him. Maybe Luchi doesn't trust him in that center back spot. Instead, you saw Miguel Trauco tuck into center back. You had Tommy Thompson wide left, Daniel Muni wide on the right. And that was interesting because I think you saw Daniel Muni did all the tasks that a center back usually does very well. He defended in those half spaces very well. He was strong in the air. He was good, getting the ball out of the back, good clearances. He had good positional awareness. Where we saw Daniel Muni struggle was when Seattle were bombing players down the left wing, and he didn't really have the pace or the awareness to prevent those crosses from being blocked. And that's one of the reasons the Earthquakes struggled, is because they were just hemorrhaging crosses. They weren't putting pressure on the ball in the wide spaces because you have two wingbacks, Tommy Thompson and Daniel Muni, who aren't really wingbacks, who don't know how to defend those crosses. Right. And so that was a problem. And, we saw Seattle really get in behind and create danger from those wide areas. So that was really interesting to me. I'm hopefully we'll get a chance to ask midweek a little bit more about why Daniel Muni was not in center back and why Luchi Gonzalez made that choice. I'm not sure if it's something that the Quakes are going to need to worry about going forward with Jonathan Mensah coming back, but it is curious nonetheless. Robert, any other thoughts here about Danielle's performance? I know that we've talked about this goalkeeper battle between JT Marcinkowski and Danielle in goal. This is the second game in a row now where it feels like Danielle's put up a pretty solid performance. He had a couple of key saves tonight, kept a clean sheet. Is there any looking back now for Luchi Gonzalez? Is this Danielle's spot to keep?
If he's healthy, and the reports we were getting before Saturday was a big part of why he was starting, is he is considered at full health and starting to be able to train as the number one goalkeeper. This is the kind of performance that sits in a coach's mind and makes you think, okay, I can trust this guy. I can put him out there in Colorado in the thin air of outside of Denver and see what he can do when it's going to be the kind of game where you're going to see the Quakes get tired. They do every time they play in Colorado. It's just the nature of playing in that environment. And is he going to be able to still have those hops and still have that energy to make some of the types of saves that he made tonight? I think Luchi's going to trust him, and I think it's going to take a run of poor results and or again another injury that slows Danielle down at this point. They didn't spend that kind of money to bring in a backup, and I think that's a big part of the decision. He's always going to get the opportunity to be the number one when he's fit and healthy, and I don't think he's going to stand on his head every game like he did tonight, but it's good to know that in that kind of environment that he can do that, and he performed admirably tonight. I agree with Ted. To give him man of the match is I don't want to say easy. I mean, he had a lot to do because the Quakes were defending for half the game, but he did stop what he had to stop, and he made some spectacular saves on top of it. So kudos to him.
And another player that I want to highlight is Jackson Ewell, because for the last few games, Robert, Jackson Ewell has been substituted 60th minute, 65th minute. He hasn't been able to go the full 90. Today, Jackson Ewell went 89 minutes. They did not have Judson on the bench. Judson got a red card after the game against Dallas last weekend. He had the mass confrontation, so he got a red card. Jackson, whether or not he's 100% fit, I think there's still some concern was able to go the full 90 minutes tonight, and the Quakes didn't really have any other options. So that was key. I also want to ask about the first half. We focused so much on the second half because, that's been a repeated theme that we've seen week in, week out, is the Earthquakes struggling in those second half moments. And if I had to guess, we'll be continuing that conversation in future editions of the Aftershock. But I want to focus in the first half as well, because the Earthquakes did well to get the lead in Seattle, one of the best teams in the league, a place that's been difficult for them to play in the past. So I want to focus on that first half, because it felt like the Earthquakes were really able to move the ball up the pitch quite well. I was really impressed with the way that they were able to connect Jeremy Ebobisse in the build-up play. To me, it feels like when the Earthquakes are playing well, they're finding Jeremy Ebobisse. He's got time to turn and to get the ball wide and to connect the players. They're playing well when they're able to play direct through Ebobisse and through Espinosa on the wings. In this first half, they were able to do that. My only concern is, where's Benji Kikanovic? Robert, what did you make of that first half? What did you make of Ebobisse? What did you make of Benji Kikanovic?
Yeah, and agree with a lot of that. Jeremy even mentioned the fact that he knew he was, his second half performance wasn't strong enough, and especially in terms of hold up play. And we definitely were seeing that more in the first half. Espinosa seems to be kind of getting into that zone where he's got a good 80 minutes in him, and he seems to be tapering a little bit. And I think, we saw a lot of good, chances in that first half, but the crosses didn't feel as dangerous as they did maybe a month ago. To Benji, it's disappointing. It's disappointing to know, or to see a player that was sort of side by side or stride by stride with Cade Cowell last season. There was a competition between those two to see who was going to be the starter from week to week. It was never a guarantee one would start and the other wouldn't. And it always felt like there was one upping going on, maybe in training even at times. There was a little more smack talk, especially from Benji in the preseason, about getting his chances and not playing second fiddle to Cade. And here it is. It's his stage with Cade on the big stage down in Argentina. And we haven't seen any sort of game-breaking moments, nothing that, you kind of look back at and feel comfortable with, trusting Benji in a starting role. And, given that, I'm sure the Quakes are looking for every opportunity to capitalize on Cade Cowell in the transfer market, and the more goals he scores in Argentina, the more the cash registers are cha-chinging away in the Quakes front office. If he gets moved this summer for a large fee and the Quakes aren't bringing in a replacement, that's Benji's starting role. I mean, that's going to be Benji's position moving forward, and he's got to be able to seize on that. And that's, I think, where I feel disappointed. And if maybe the ceiling's not there, or maybe there's something holding him back, but it does feel like when players are put into that position, they do need to show that they deserve that position.
And Benji Kikanovic did register his first goal of the season last weekend against Dallas, though we're not sure how intentional that goal was. Robert,
I've scored a few of those in rec league, and you take full credit even though you happen to be in the right place at the right time.
Bounced off of his face. The bottom line is that he's not getting in enough dangerous positions out of open play.
So, yeah.
And tonight, what was really, really frustrating to me was that he had the opportunities. There were so many runs that he could have made. There were so many times where Jeremy Ebobisse had the ball at the sort of the center mark, midway, halfway line, picked up his head, turned around, looked to spread the ball wide. Where was Benji Kikanovic? Everywhere but where he needed to be. He was either too deep and not willing to make the run, or he drifted up top and was making the wrong run. But there were so many opportunities for him just to get in behind on that left-hand side, and he wasn't in the right spot, and he wasn't making the right runs. And that's very concerning for a player who was able to get in all those spots last season, who was a merchant on that left wing in the last season, who loved that run in behind, cut back, score last season. That was his bread and butter. He wasn't doing that tonight, and I think we all have been able to notice that. I want to briefly, before we get to our final thoughts, thank everyone again for joining us tonight for our 100th edition of the Aftershock post-game show. I want to give a special shout out to all of our patrons at Quakes Epicenter. They are the reason why this show is able to happen, why we've been able to reach this milestone, is all of their support and all of their love. For $2 a month, you can become a patron as well. And you'll get early access to all the articles by Jamon Moore, Robert, Asher Cohn, everyone who writes for Quakes Epicenter. For $5 a month, you can join the patron Slack. We now have 120 Quakes fans on that patron Slack.
Nice.
Gotta be honest, guys. I used to live tweet these games. I used to, whatever thought came into my head, I'd post it on Twitter during these games. I've moved all that now. Now my inner conscience is happening. My internal monologue is happening in the Quakes Epicenter patron Slack. That's where you get all the juicy takes that are too hot and spicy to make it onto this show, where you guys get people talking about transfer rumors, talking about a combination that Cade Cowell, Diego Luna have been making in Argentina, what that could be like in San Jose. Some other ideas for what the Quakes need. You'll get all the early scoops from, you like the scoop that Jamon Moore brought tonight about Jonathan Mensah. That's the kind of thing you'll find on the Patriot Slack all the time. $5 a month. It is a great deal. So with that said, Robert, I want to swing it back around to you and ask you for your final thoughts, your final takeaways on this game. Earthquakes now solidly in, fifth place in the Western Conference and heading into another road game in Colorado. What do you make of it?
Yeah, with the expanded playoff field this season, it feels more and more comfortable that the Quakes are a playoff caliber team. And again, I know that the bar is much lower than in seasons past, but this is the kind of performance that makes you feel that they can get the points they need over the regular season to make the playoffs. Now, most importantly to that endeavor is they won on the road tonight. They won in a very hostile environment. They won a game that anyone who's going to look at the stat sheet and the numbers is going to wonder, how the heck did the Quakes get 3 points out of that game? And in some part, they're correct. There was plenty of luck involved here. But, teams that are prepared and teams that are energized will sometimes be able to make enough luck to ride through some of those difficult moments. And the Quakes are not going to be, threatening in the playoffs unless they can be an effective road team. And it's got to start at some point. And it's great to see it starting with a win tonight against a top team in the conference. We called it a trap game, or was it you, or maybe it was Phil who called it the trap game after the Dallas one, which made me laugh. I always love that sports cliche. Well, guess what? There's another trap game coming up, and now it's the Quakes. They can't go into Colorado and waltz in there and expect to find a walkover against the Rapids. I don't believe Luchi's going to let this team take that attitude into Colorado. But again, I'm looking forward to seeing how the Quakes can play with the same level of intensity and commitment in that game as they showed at times tonight.
Robert, I have to give you credit. Last weekend, you and Phil were saying this could be a trap game for the Seattle Sounders. I wasn't buying it, but you happen to be right on this one. So want to give you your fair due on this one. Glad the Quakes were able to get a victory, first road victory since 2022, to celebrate our 100th edition of the Aftershock show. And it's a huge one. I forgive them now for the goal that they allowed against Dallas, for the goal that they allowed against LAFC. If you're able to, come out of those 3 fairly difficult games with 5 points, I'd say that's a good place for the Earthquakes to be. And it allows them now to push for a home playoff spot. And that is the goal. That's the mantra we'll be repeating on here for the rest of the season. That's what they need to do in order to, push themselves to the next level. Those are the goals. Those are the expectations that they should be setting for the rest of this season. And I want to give them credit. We focused a lot on the second half. The way they played in that first half was solid. They were able to go to Seattle and get a foothold in the game, build through the middle, find their wingers in dangerous positions. In the first half, they had more XG than Seattle. They created more opportunities than Seattle, and they put in a solid performance. The second half, we're going to keep focusing on that, because now that they're a good team, now that they're able to get into these winning positions, that's not something we've always seen the Earthquakes do.
Right.
They need to know how to defend them. And I'm not entirely satisfied with the way the Earthquakes did that tonight. And I'm not willing to let them off the hook. I'm not willing to give Seattle all the credit for that as well. The Earthquakes, if we remember the way they played in the first half, they should be capable of doing that in the second half as well. They should be capable of passing out of the back, creating chances, putting pressure on Seattle, even when they're up, getting that second goal so that they can put away games for good. That's the next step for this Earthquakes team to become a challenger in Major League Soccer. And I'm seeing the focus. The chat isn't even following what I'm saying. They're focused now on transfer signings. We talked about that a little bit last week. Possibility had some ideas about Diego Luna returning to San Jose if he so chooses after the U20 World Cup. But I agree that, look, in order to make that next step, you're going to need more depth. If you want to be competitive in these second halves, if you want to be, pushing the tempo in these second halves, you're going to need substitutes like Seattle, like LAFC have, who are starting quality, who can go on and get you goals, who can go on and raise the level. And that's not something that the Earthquakes have right now when you have first off the bench Tommy Thompson, second off the bench Daniel Muni, who's never played in Major League Soccer before. That's not something that they have so far. Anything else you want to add here, Robert?
No, I think that's a really good way to put it. Luna's the kind of guy, Tommy had a few of those moments tonight where he took a foul to slow the game down and get a little bit of a breather. But you don't have someone who's making a difference off the bench enough to sort of calm the game, and that would be a wonderful addition to see them be able to do. I'm just very excited to look at the leaderboard there in the Western Conference and not have to scroll down off the bottom of my computer page to see San Jose, which is something you don't get to do very often when you follow the Quakes. So I think that's a big plus as we're getting very close to that midway point, a real mark where teams that are in playoff positions tend to stay in playoff positions and then begin to make those adjustments to hopefully finish strong. And so, Alex, I know we joked that we were going to try to go 100 minutes for the Aftershock 100, and I'm glad we agreed we're not going to do that because I'm not sure how many more last thoughts I can come up with for the next 40 minutes or so. I'm going to say this: I do hope that those Balogun to San Jose rumors do prove to be true. That would be amazing on the transfer talk. Still keeping my ear to the ground on interesting rumors out of Europe and other fantasies that we might all be having about what can happen in San Jose. But I'll pass it over to you, Alex. Again, great show tonight.
Look, Robert, if they bring in Diego Luna, I think they have one of the best young American cores with Cade Cowell, with Jackson Moore, with JT Marcinkowski in Major League Soccer. So with that said, I want to thank everyone once again for joining the Aftershock 100, our 100th edition of the Aftershock post-game show. We will see you again after the San Jose Earthquakes road match against the Colorado Rapids this weekend. And we look forward to the next 100 episodes of the Aftershock. Hope they're as fun, bring us as much joy as these 100 episodes have. Want to thank all the hosts who have helped us put on these 100 shows, from you, Robert, from Phil Leva, Jamon Moore, and Patel, Colin Etnier, Asher Cohn, everyone who's helped host, everyone who has joined all of these 100 shows as a guest, and of course, all of you for bringing all of your comments and all of your joy and all of your feelings into these chats. They are the reason that this show has been so much fun. And so with that said, I want to wish everybody a good night and hope that we can see you again after the Colorado game.